Hello, everyone, and welcome to our presentation on Tantrum Tamers, tips and tricks for stopping tantrums before they start. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nina, and I am a community learning coordinator here. I also do story times here at Suffolk Public Library, and I am really excited to bring this information to y'all. So a little bit on my background before I was here at Suffolk Public Library. I actually worked for the Child Advocacy Center in Austin, Texas, and I did presentations on child abuse identification and reporting and prevention, as well as parenting classes on childhood development and working with trauma-informed care and that level of aftercare for when big life things happen and working with children through those big emotions. So I am very excited to bring to you guys this information, not just information that I have from my past life, but also information that I've been doing a decent amount of research on to bring to y'all and to kind of help you through this really difficult time in parenting. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And first and foremost, we're going to go over what is a tantrum. What does that look like? What does that mean, right? So a temper tantrum is defined as extreme episodes of frustration or anger. Sometimes this comes with shouting, screaming, crying, falling to the floor, flailing extremities, hitting, kicking, throwing items, engaging in breath holding spells. This is going to vary child to child, day to day, hour to hour, even, and it is going to be something that you will just have to know of your own child. Which of these behaviors do they tend to do the most, and how can you keep them safe during a temper tantrum if one does happen to come about, and working with them through that. So we're going to talk first about prevention, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about, because we can't unfortunately prevent every single temper tantrum from happening, we're going to talk about what to do during a temper tantrum and after a temper tantrum, as well as when it goes from normal childhood development and processing and learning to when it may be something that you want to talk to your healthcare professional about. So why do these happen in the first place, right? Children are still developing. Their brains are not fully formed. They have the parts of their brain that say, I'm hungry. They have the parts of the brain that can produce the emotions, but they don't know why. They don't know what those emotions are. They just have them, right? So they do not have a fully developed frontal cortex. Most people don't until about the age of 28. And so that is the part of your brain that is giving you impulse control. It's the part of your brain that's processing those emotions. It's the part of your brain that's giving you social norms and telling you how you should act in public and what you should be doing and how and what your emotion is and why you might be feeling it. So children don't have this part of their brain fully developed. So that can result in a lot of communication challenges, social challenges. If they have unmet needs, like they're tired or hungry or they need connection or attention, right? They are only able to say, I have a need. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I just need that thing. And so they are still learning to process that. They're still learning what that feels like. They're learning what anger feels like, what frustration feels like, and they don't necessarily have the vocabulary to express that to you in a way that is calm and neutral, right? So the first step in managing these outbursts is really understanding the triggers, testing the way that your environment can be changed to prevent them, and the biggest thing that we can do is to adjust the child's environment, and as their caregivers or their parents or someone who is with them a lot, this is something that you're able to do on a consistent basis. And I just want to read this quote. We don't blame parents for tantrums. Parents, caregivers, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, we do not blame those people. We do not blame the people taking care of children for tantrums, because they are only a part of what goes into a child's behavior patterns. But being able But your behavior is the most adjustable thing in any given situation. So it's the most powerful tool we have to helping young children. So just as we go through this, there's no fault or blame being put on the caregivers for the way that a child is acting. It is simply us giving you tips and tricks to help you. So this is a judgment-free zone, I promise. So, what are some things we can do before a tantrum even happens? How can we help a child process what's going on? So, the four main things that I was able to find that we can really, really do is address the cause, let them choose within reason, right? Making sure that they get enough food and sleep. We know that they may not want to take their naps. They may not want to eat their dinner. They may not want to do those things, right? But finding, those little things and working with them in that way and preparing them for changes as they come. One of the biggest reason for tantrums is sudden change or unexpected events. And so because that will dysregulate their nervous system the most. So talking about addressing the cause, right? A lot of times we know the things that are going to set off our children, right? We know that every time we play a game, when it comes time to clean up, they don't want to clean up, right? It may not be that they're even playing the game anymore, but they don't like the cleanup part of the game. And asking them to clean up is going to be a big deal and it's going to trigger them and it may result in a tantrum, right? So reminding them, right? I'd love to play this game with you, but remember, when we're done, we'll work together and we'll clean it up. We have to put everything away because we have to put our toys away if we're not using them, right? So making sure that we address that in the very beginning before we even take the game out, before we even pull the toys out, before we even do all of those things, bringing those things into a part of the routine. If we know cleanup is something that really triggers our children, always results in a tantrum, right? Finding ways to include it in the routine. Do we clean up before we go to bed? Do we clean up before we go take a nap? Do we clean up every time when we finish one game? Do we clean up for the next, right? Making sure that they know cleanup is coming. It is going to be a part of the routine. It is going to be a part of the everyday. And this is true for eating. This is true for if leaving the store or leaving the playground or leaving daycare. If those are things, right? Addressing that cause before it even comes up, letting them know, hey, this is going to be happening. And sometimes we have young kiddos, 1 to 2 years old, who are starting to display this tantrum thing, these tantrum issues, and so they may not necessarily understand when you're giving them that cue, but talking them through it in words that they do understand, right? As much as possible. Letting them choose within reason. A lot of times, when we don't have control over our own situations, over our own autonomy, over our own body, those kinds of things, right? It can result in a lot of big emotions. So we can't always let them choose, right? They don't get to choose necessarily their bedtime. They don't get to choose what they have for dinner. They don't get to choose where they live. They don't get to choose who watches them during the day. They don't get to choose those kinds of things, right? But what they can choose is between two outfits. Do you want to wear this shirt or this shirt, right? Giving them that option, making sure that that option, either way, whatever they choose, is something that you're going to be okay with, right? Ending play to go eat dinner, right? That can be something that can be a big thing. Do we want to eat our dinner in the high chair or do we want to eat our dinner on the booster seat at the table, right? Do we want to eat our dinner here or over there, right? Giving them that option of where they eat dinner. That dinner is going to be eaten. It has to be, right? We all have to sit down. We all have to eat because we want to make sure that we're fueling our bodies. But where they do that, right? Um, Making sure that, again, as much as possible, we can. We're not giving them the option of, do you want to go to Disneyland for vacation or do you want to go to the water park down the street, right? They're going to choose Disneyland, and then maybe that's not even really an option. So don't give them false hope and make sure that either of the two options are two things that you are okay with, right? Making sure that they get enough food and sleep, just the way that we get when we get hangry because we haven't eaten all day, or we got a poor night's sleep, so we're a little irritable, right? Kiddos are the exact same way. And yes, it is really hard to get a toddler to lay down for their nap, and it is really hard to get them to eat all of the food on their plate, right? Um, but it is, making sure that they are getting enough of that, keeping a snack with you to avoid that, right? If they fall asleep in the car, maybe giving them an extra 5 to 10 minutes to sleep in the car before you wake them up to take them into the store, that kind of thing. And of course, this is all within reason when you have time. Sometimes you have an appointment to make and you don't have that option to let them sleep a couple extra minutes. But when you have the time, making sure that you're allowing them that opportunity. Preparing them for changes. Sudden changes, unexpected events, they can be overwhelming. It can lead to a lot of things. So, as you're getting closer to ending that play date, right? Hey guys, we have 20 minutes and then it's going to be time to go home. Hey guys, we have 15 minutes and then it's going to be time to go home. The older your kiddo gets, the more you can incorporate the clock. When the big hand is on this number and the little hand is on this number, that's when we're going to go home. Or when the clock says 500, right? That's when we're going to go home. But just giving them that slow countdown for kiddos who are younger and who maybe they understand numbers, and that some numbers are bigger than others, but they don't understand what a clock looks like or what a timer is, right? The older your kiddo is, the more that they understand, the more that you can incorporate those different tools into that. So, what are some skills you can work on to help with this, to help with their impulse control, to help with that kind of stuff, right? So, we want to make sure that we are giving them every opportunity to work on impulse control, right? And we'll kind of get into some other parts of this towards the end when we kind of go over how to respond. But the biggest things that we want to look out for, right? Kiddos don't have that impulse control. They don't have that thing that says, don't pull the glasses off of the person who's holding you's face. Don't pull dad's beard. Don't pull your auntie's hair. Don't do those things, right? The only thing they're going to understand is if every time I pull somebody's beard, or if every time I pull somebody's hair, I get put on the ground and I don't like being put on the ground because I like to be held, right? Moving them away from the situation. If they are playing with their friends and they hit their friend, right? Moving them away from their friend for, maybe 5 minutes, just letting them understand that if we are not, if we don't mind our hands, if we don't play gentle with our friends, if we are pulling on people and things like that, and we're going to be removed from that situation, and that might not be fun, right? So we're giving them that immediate consequence in a way that is not us hitting, biting, kicking, or screaming back at them, right? Giving them the opportunity to problem solve. I do have a little one in my house. He is my nephew, and we have a rule that says if he's not bothering you, don't bother him. So if we are all in the living room, we're all hanging out, and he is playing in his ball pit by himself, and he is trying to, put a round peg in a square hole, right? We're letting him figure that out for himself, right? If he's quiet, he's not asking us for help. And we are there to make sure that he's safe and to make sure that, he's not getting frustrated or getting to the point where he's going to throw a tantrum over it, right? We're letting him problem solve. We're letting him try his darndest to put that round peg in a square hole, right? We are giving him that opportunity to learn for himself. It also increases independence and attention span. So, we don't necessarily want to call attention to ourselves if they're playing, right? We don't want to go, oh, what are you doing? How are you doing that? That looks so cool. That looks so fun, right? We want to give them the opportunity to play by themselves or to, independently play with each other. Give them the opportunity to problem solve by themselves. It really increases their confidence and their ability to do things. Delaying gratification. Yes, you can have that, but you have to wait until after dinner, right? Letting them know, like, yes, there usually a kiddo knows when there's ice cream in the fridge, yeah, or in the freezer. So yes, there's ice cream in the freezer, and you can have some after we eat dinner, right? Delaying that gratification, giving them that opportunity to build patience. giving them that opportunity to develop that part of their frontal lobe. Negotiating if they pick up something that they're not supposed to have, right? Giving them the, finding something that we is okay, something similar maybe even, right? So if he picks up, my nephew picks up a real fork and he's trying to play with it, I may pick up one of his toy or his plastic forks and I may say, hey, do you want to trade? Do you want to, let's trade. This one's more fun. It's colorful. It has all this stuff, show them it makes noise. It does the things, right? Give them the opportunity to trade. If you have the time to extend that play date by an extra 5 minutes, right? And they say, oh, can we get a little bit longer? Give them the opportunity to explain why. Maybe they're in the middle of building the world's tallest magnet tile tower, right? And they need 5 extra minutes to do that, right? Ask them, say, why do you want more time? What do you think? What will you gain out of getting more time? And you're still allowed to say no. You're still the caregiver. You're still the person in charge. And you can say, no, we really don't have the time today. Or no, I just don't think it's a good idea for us to stay longer. Right. And but allowing them to plead their case to you, allowing them to negotiate, allowing them to have that opportunity. Communicating wishes and needs to adults. So really just letting them, explain, like I said, and that's part of the negotiation too part, right? We were building the biggest magnetiles tower ever, and we really wanted to finish, right? So allowing them the opportunity to explain what they were wishing for, or what they needed, to really help them feel confident in expressing that, to giving them the words and the vocabulary to be able to do that, knowing what's appropriate or expected in any given situation, right? This is part of preparing them or address the cause before it happens, right? We're going to go into the store, we're going to go straight to the groceries, and then we're going to check out and we're going to leave, right? This is telling them we're doing this, we're going here, we're doing the thing inside, and then we're going home, right? This is giving them, I expect you to, I do not want to talk about, I do not want to go to the toy aisle. I do not want to go to the candy aisle. We're not going to get anything when we go in there, right? So really, really, letting them know in advance what's going to happen and giving them that, how you expect them to act in that situation as well. And the last one on the list is self-soothing, which I am going to play a video for you guys. This will be available, the actual PowerPoint. So if we have any technical issues while this video plays, you can go onto our website and you can find it there as well. But give me 1 second and we will play this video. And this is part of what you received in your kit. So we're going to go over the glitter jars, how the glitter jars help, and it really is part of that self-soothing part of this. So we're going to play this video. Maybe. And like I said, there may be some technical issues. So if there is, you guys will be able to see this on our learning link, which is also where the instructions for the glitter jar are if you were not able to get one in the library. So this does not want to play for me. So I am just going to make sure that you guys get the link in a couple of different places, so that way you have access to it. But the monster in this is, I do not remember what her name is, but Esme is the little girl, and she has a lot of monsters that she is friends with. And this monster in particular does not want to go inside to take a bath after they've been playing in the mud all day, and so she starts to tornado spin and get really intense in her emotions about not wanting to go inside. So Esme goes and grabs the glitter jar so that she has time to relax and think and kind of ground herself, and that is hopefully the effects that the glitter jars that you guys are making will have for your kiddos. So, how do the glitter jars help? What do they do? The metaphor is the swirling glitter stands for fast, chaotic thoughts or big feelings like anger and stress, right? So the glitter is all of the crazy things that might be going on inside of your head, all of the emotions, all of the feelings that you might be having, right? Watching these pieces sink to the bottom give the kids a physical thing to look at as they are trying to process their emotions. It helps slow their breathing. It helps to calm the nervous system. You can ask them to count the pieces of glitter if they're older, right? You can ask them to count the pieces of glitter. You can just tell them, like, you have to wait here while all of the pieces sink to the bottom, right? You can include some breath work, some deep in through the nose, out through the mouth breath work as they're watching this glitter swirl around and fall and do what it's doing. It really does help the nervous system to feel grounded and regulated, and hopefully in the moments before a meltdown might be happening, or you can even hand it to them before that triggering event, right? Like, hey, here's your glitter jar. We're going to go and we're going to get in the car to leave, right? So they know, like, okay, this is a transition. This is what's going to help me through this transition. I have a lot of big emotions about leaving, but I have my glitter jar to help me as we watch it and I walk to the car, that kind of thing, just to give them that, again, an additional notice of, hey, we're transitioning, we're doing something different. So again, we can't be perfect. We cannot foresee every single trigger. We cannot end every tantrum before it begins. So what do we do when they do happen? What do we do? How do we properly do this without, traumatizing the kiddos, traumatizing ourselves? How do we continue when it does? So some of the key responses that I found are: find a distraction, right? Again, the glitter jar. You could be mid, right? It could be mid tantrum, and you could say, "Oh, look what I found!" Right? For Esme and her monster, she was mid tantrum when she handed her that glitter jar, and she was still able to say, "Ooh, shiny thing," right? And to calm herself down. So finding a distraction, pointing something else out, if they, giving them another toy, giving them something that makes noise, giving them something that's colorful, saying, hey, look over there. I think I see, do they like trains? I think I see a train. I think I see a bus. Oh my God, maybe that's a fire truck. Do you hear it? Wait, let's listen, right? Giving them that opportunity to get distracted, to find something else to focus on. Staying calm. If your child is mid tantrum, this is not the time to lecture. It's not the time to argue with them. It's not the time to say, okay, we want to put on our listening ears. They don't have listening ears right now, right? They are mid tantrum. They are having way too many emotions, and it's not the time to teach them something or to try and explain something away for them, right? We want to wait until they're calm and back to a grounded and regulated state. So we want to stay as calm as possible as adults, right? Because if they are in the middle of the tantrum and we start screaming or we start yelling or we start, throwing things or whatever it may be, right? That also just teaches them that that is the correct way to respond to big emotions. So we want to stay as calm as possible. We want to let them have their moment as needed. Maybe we do try to distract them. Maybe we do try to, do something else. But we're not trying to teach them in this moment. They are not in a learning mindset in the middle of a tantrum. So one of the most powerful things we can do is to ignore the tantrum. Again, if they are in a safe position, maybe they're throwing the tantrum at home and then we're not in public, right? Ignoring that teaches them that it's unacceptable, that they're not going to get what they want. Kids at this age don't have the ability to manipulate, but this can develop into a manipulation tool in the future, right? So they don't have, like I said, they don't have their frontal lobe fully developed. They are not going to throw a tantrum to manipulate you. But it is teaching their brain subconsciously, hey, if we throw a tantrum and we have these big emotions, we get exactly what we want, right? So we want to ignore the tantrum, again, if it's possible, right? And we just want to move on from the situation. Negative attention is still attention, and so if they are seeking some care, some love, and they're not receiving it, and then they throw a tantrum and they receive negative attention, it is still attention that they're receiving. And most importantly, we want to make sure that they're safe. So if you do have a child who flails their arms, who falls to the ground, who holds their breath, that kind of stuff, we want to make sure that there are no dangerous objects near your child. We want to make sure that other children are safe. So if they're on the playground or if they're anywhere, right, maybe bringing them to a different place or a different part of the playground to have that tantrum, not in the middle of the way. We don't want them getting hurt and we don't want anyone else getting hurt. Some of the key things that we want to try not to do, right? This is something that, especially a lot in the older generations that we've seen, but I do still see it quite often, is hit, bite, or kick back, right? We may think that this teaches them, like, hey, they bit me, I bite them, now they know it hurts, right? that that might not happen. They might not be able, again, they're not making those connections. They don't have that frontal lobe fully there, so they're not necessarily making those connections. They don't have the ability to empathize with you, right? So the opposite of this happens. They say, oh, I made my mom frustrated, or I made my caregiver frustrated, and she got really flustered and really angry, and so she bit me back. And so they may think that that's allowed, and they may think that that is the appropriate reaction. They are looking to us as the adults in their life for guidance. And so the way that we respond to them is the way that they're going to kind of give back to us a little bit. So we just want to make sure that we're not doing those things back. Like I said before, putting them on the ground, removing them from the situation, giving them space to have their big emotions, and then coming back and talking to them about them. And we don't want to give in or change our minds, right? If they're throwing this tantrum because they really, really want this toy at the store, right? We don't want to change our mind just so that they'll stop and they'll give in. Because again, a child at this age is not trying to manipulate you, but it could turn into something that they utilize in the future. It is teaching their brain subconsciously that we're going to be able to, we can use this as a tactic. So they're not actively trying to manipulate you right now between the ages of 1 and 5 years old, but it could in the future become that, and it could result that they're doing this with other people in other locations like school or daycare or that kind of stuff. So we want to make sure that we don't give in and that we don't change our mind. After the tantrum happens, what do we do? How do we address what is going on in a way that is safe for our kiddos, right? So praise them for calming down, reinforce that the positive behavior, the good choices that they made, right? I saw that you got really angry, and that but you grabbed your glitter jar and you calmed yourself down. That's amazing. You did such a good job, right? Acknowledge their feelings. Let your child understand that that you understand their frustrations, right? It's a big world. They're having big emotions and they're little tiny human beings. So, expressing that, letting them know, like, hey, I know that it can be so hard to have lots of feelings and not a lot of words to share them, right? Um, and if they are seeking attention or validation, this helps with that, right? This helps them feel co regulated. This helps them feel like you understand them and that you're connecting with them. Help label their emotions. Were they disappointed? Were they frustrated? Were they angry? How did you know? Because they were crying, their face was red, they were scrunched up, right? Giving them the ability to say, like, oh, this is what angry looks like, and that is what I looked like, right? So I was angry. Giving them the ability to help label those emotions, to help give them that vocabulary to do so. Helping them manage strong emotions, so helping them figure out a way to deal with the different emotions that they might be having. If they're really sad, maybe they need to watch something funny, or maybe they need to be tickled, right? If they're really angry, maybe they need to take a moment to themselves. Maybe they need to step aside, right? Helping them find what works for them. The same thing, you could have two children, you could have twins, and one might just need to be tickled and laugh and giggle and they're feeling better, and the other one might need 5 minutes to calm down and to figure out what was going on, right? So finding them, helping them find what actually helps them manage their emotions for each individual child. and setting a good example. Like I said, our children are learning from us. They are looking up to us to model those healthy behaviors. So, a lot of times people will say, oh, I never saw my mom cry, or I never saw my parents, angry, or things like that. And it is okay if they do see you cry, right? Just say, oh, I'm really sad and I have to cry so that I can let these emotions out, so I can let those emotions feel like they've been felt, right? Um, and so, or even explaining to them, maybe you don't want to be that vulnerable with them, and that's okay. But explaining to them, when I get angry, this is what I do. When I get sad, this is what I do, and letting them see that in action, right? So, giving them that opportunity to see it and to see it work with you is super, super important. So, when should you contact a professional? A typical tantrum, this is usually between the ages of 1 year to 1 to 4 years. Um, it does include all of the behaviors that we've already talked about, and it lasts about 15 minutes. Usually, most children won't have them more than 5 times per day, and their mood will return to normal between tantrums. So maybe they had one tantrum at 2 o'clock. They're completely normal, fun, and giggly, and whatever, and then they have another one at 4 o'clock, right? But in the in between times, their moods are normal. It returns to what their normal is, right? I can't tell you what normal looks like for your kiddo, but their normal, right? But an atypical tantrum is usually when they start lasting past the age of 4, because they're just not. It shows that like lack of development. So we want to make sure that if they're continuing past the age of 4, if these behaviors include injury to themselves or others during a tantrum, a lot of times that intentional injury to themselves or others during a tantrum, right? Tantrums that last longer than 15 minutes. So if you have a tantrum that's lasting 30 minutes, or they've just been going for a really long time, if it occurs more than 5 times per day, if they're constantly having those meltdowns, and they just have a persistent negative mood afterwards, right? So if they are just consistently not in a good mood afterwards, they have a tantrum and then they're just a terror in between, and then they have another really big emotional outburst, right? So that is kind of some of the things that we want to look out for. If they continue to get worse after the age of 4, if they're violent, they last longer than 15 minutes, these are all times when you should be reaching out to a healthcare provider or a behavior specialist. Or if at any point you're like, this is just so overwhelming for me, and I just need help. I need more than what this video has provided. I need more than other things, right? This is the time, to reach out to that healthcare provider, whether it is your pediatrician, whether it is a behavior specialist, whatever it might be. If your child has constant headaches, stomach aches, or anxiety, sometimes anxiety does manifest as stomach aches or headaches. And so if they're constantly getting those or constantly complaining of those, and if they feel frustrated, and when you feel frustrated and unsure of how to handle those tantrums safely. So, but my biggest reminder to y'all, the biggest thing that I can tell you, is that it is such a frustrating part of parenting. It's such a frustrating part of caregiving. As an adult, it can be hard to understand why little things trigger kiddos so bad, right? What causes such big emotions? It's not that big of a deal, right? You didn't get the cheese you wanted, or I peeled the banana the wrong way. Why is this why is this such a big deal, right? And it can be hard for us to understand. And again, they're just little people with lots of big emotions happening inside of their body, and they're trying to they don't have the words or the information on how to express that. And so this is their way of doing so. Um, so, this does not mean you're a bad parent. A temper tantrum does not mean you're a bad parent or a bad caregiver. They are a normal part of childhood development, and kids tend to have them as they learn to become more independent. So just continue doing your best. Ask for help when you need it, and have grace with yourself as you and your child learn and grow together. And if you do have any questions, I'm one of the story timers here. I do, and you are more than welcome to come after story time and ask questions. Or I have also included my reference page at the end of this. So if you would like to find out where I did a lot of my research, you can use that reference page as well to kind of conduct your own. But thank you so much for tuning into this video, for collecting your glitter jars, and I am excited, and I hope to see you guys around here at Suffolk Public Library.